A cop in Paris, Illinois, who was caught having a sexual text conversation with a minor has been demoted, but not fired. Remember, cops are supposed to protect and serve, and that is not what's happening in this case. Philip Kohlenberg is with the Paris Police Department. There was an investigation into those text messages, and they included, comments coming from this cop about booty calls and using handcuffs on the minor. We don't have the exact wording of the text, but the police department did confirm that this conversation happened. Now, they decided that rather than fire him, they would just demote him. He was a sergeant and he's now just a regular cop, right? He's a patrol cop. And this isn't the only accusation against him. And by the way, at this point, it's not an accusation. They found evidence that he had this exchange with a minor. There were other questionable exchanges that he allegedly had. In addition to the alleged inappropriate conversations with the minor, authorities spoke with a dispatcher who said Kohlenberg would talk about his sex life while working with her and make references to his whores. So this guy is still employed in the Paris Police Department in Illinois. It's just, what's happening? I mean, look, I'm not a fan of let's get this person fired, right? I think that right now society is in this place where people somehow feel empowered by like digging up old tweets about people or old tweets that people have put out there, and then basically deciding that they don't deserve a job anymore and getting them fired. I don't agree with that at all. But we're talking about a cop who just engaged in an inappropriate sexual conversation with a minor and has been accused by a dispatcher of making inappropriate sexual comments while communicating with her. And slap on the wrist, he's a cop. Slap on the wrist, not a big deal.
Yeah, the only thing I would say about the cops is that we're supposed to be holding these guys to the utmost highest standard, and that's why this is problematic, right? When you literally have the power to end somebody's life, that's within your job sort of capabilities. You should be held to a much higher standard than a mailman. That's just my opinion, right? Like if you are a person who can be held responsible for the citizenry and you're given jurisdiction, then of course how you behave should be scrutinized because your responsibility is higher than almost anybody's within the community, right? Like we can't call these guys a bunch of heroes and super people and all this other stuff, but then when it's time to hold them accountable to a certain standard that their title as freaking heroes in society should deem that they're worthy of, and you can't go out and do the double speak out of both sides of your mouth. Like either these people are exceptional and we should treat them as such, or they're not. And so when this guy is engaging in this type of behavior with a minor when his job literally is to protect and serve, and specifically those of us who are most vulnerable, which are by definition young and old people, it's just sad that he would take this tact or that he would take this route of performing his job. And yeah, of course he gets a slap on the wrist. Why not? That's what cops get. Cops don't get punished; They get slapped on the wrist.
Right, and it shouldn't come as a surprise considering everything that's been reported about policing over the last several years. After all the videos that we've seen of unarmed people literally running away from the cops and getting shot in the back, obviously while not posing any type of imminent threat to the police. I mean, we've seen videos of protesters intentionally getting run over by cops during protests. I mean, the list goes on and on. And so I think the mistake that people make in weighing in on policing in America is they seem to think that it's solely a racial issue, that the abuse of power is solely something that impacts a specific race. When in reality, like, look, disproportionately, especially when we see police shootings, when we see the videos and all of that, we see people of color targeted. But when you excuse that type of abuse of power against one person, you're really excusing it against anyone else, everyone else. And there, of course, have been many examples of police using excessive force or abuse of power against white people as well. But I feel like people just want to categorize it or compartmentalize it as just, oh, this is just a race issue. But it's really, yes, there is definitely that component to it. But in reality, it's something that affects all of us. We should care if it only affected one race. But it's not even just that. It affects every single one of us when you give these people excuses after excuses, you give them an unlimited amount of power, they never face any consequences for it, they will abuse their power and abuse you as well. Like, it's just, you're giving them the green light for this. And now we're hearing stories about cops sending gross messages to minors. And yeah, I mean, we'll demote you, but you can stay in the police force as people who are meant to protect and serve.
Yeah, I think my mission, our mission especially, Anna, is to get people to understand that when we do talk about the race issue in America, it's connected to just a larger problem, right? Like, the race thing is connected to the police take advantage of people who are vulnerable. When you are poor, you are vulnerable, right? Like, I remember when they did an audit of the Ferguson cops and they learned that they just racked up tickets on all the black people. That's how they got money for the town. That's how they funded the town, by racking up tickets amongst the most economically disadvantaged in the community. Instead of just say raising taxes on the richest people, no, we're not gonna do that, because rich people have resources, rich people can fight back. And so what they often do is they just take advantage of the most vulnerable within the society. And oftentimes, because of the legacy, obviously, of slavery and Jim Crow and et cetera in America, black people are disproportionately disadvantaged and vulnerable in this country. But let's face it, I mean, and this is an extreme example, but you should know this. This would never happen to Oprah Winfrey. She's black, but she's also a billionaire. And oftentimes, like I would say 99% of the times, that supersedes whatever the hell your race is. You as rich as that, if you are financially and economically empowered, the cops can't mess with you. You're inoculated from that for the most part, even when you are black or you are Mexican. What they do is they prey on the weak, they prey on the vulnerable, these bad cops.
Yeah, I think that you're right about that. And you did a better job articulating what I was trying to get at, because this is really an issue of powerful people being able to victimize the powerless, the most vulnerable. And we have seen it play out. And thank you for mentioning that Ferguson investigation, because you're right. I mean, that is how the cops in Ferguson managed to collect revenue when the heart of the issue is, why is there a lack of revenue in the first place? It's because of tax cuts for people with means and regressive taxation for all of us, right? And we're seeing that being proposed, by the way, when it comes to Biden's infrastructure bill, where people like Joe Manchin, a corporate Democrat, comes out and says, well, I'm uncomfortable with increasing the corporate tax rate from 21% to 28%, even though it was 35% when before Trump got elected into office. Maybe we should consider a gas tax. Yeah, maybe we should consider regressive taxation that forces all of us to pay into a system that private companies like Uber, by the way, get to take full advantage of. Maybe Uber needs to pay more in taxes. I mean, they rely on public infrastructure for their whole business model. But that's just how it works. So this kind of regressive taxation is not only awful financially for Americans, but it gets collected in ways that force you to have to deal with policing, in some cases abusive policing, when you really don't need to.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.